City fan, are you? We were born in Collinghurst.
That's right. My father used to take me to Main Road, but at the same time, United used to play at Main Road when I was at school. You know, after the war with these on ground, I saw them play against Yeovil. Saw them play against Bradford. Was it Bradford City? About Park Avenue in the cup, a second replay, something like that. A midweek game. I played through them. You know, to get which we all did, and walk from Manchester town centre to the ground. But then when I became a schoolboy player, I played for Manchester Boys, Lancashire and England schoolboys. A lot of the clubs we were chasing, and at the time it seemed the best club to go to was Manchester United because they developed youth players. They had a good youth policy, and that was the main reason. Of course, I learned sense as well when I left school. I got a bit more mature instead of being childish.
You were like Fred Air then?
Well, has he matured? I don't know.
Fred didn't see it. Is there any United match in which you actually played? You obviously played at right at the time of the United career with Busby Babes, and then the year after and on up. Was there any game that you actually played in that brings back memories?
Well, the youth games were the first things that hit you, and I can always remember one youth game in particular. It was against Bradford. We played at Old Trafford, and the papers were full of Bobby Charlton at that time because he was one of the Milburns. And I always remember the late George Follows in the Daily Herald writing about never mind your lad, Mrs. Charlton, sort of an open letter to Sis, you know, this young McGuinness is going to be the one, because I can always remember one ball in particular. I had a shot at goal and it was blocked and it came right back to me, and instead of shooting again I saw somebody free at the far post, and it came that quick and I side-footed it to this fella instead of shooting again, and he walked it in the net. It was Bobby who walked it in the net, by the way, and it looks as though somebody had a bit of vision there, and that somebody was me, you know, so I was quite pleased with that, and I got a good write-up out of that. It was sort of my first good write-up at United. But really the game that does stand out is my first one, which turned out to be a thriller. I was 17 years of age, nearly 18, but it was in the October. Well, I was 18 in the October, but I played while I was still 17, which I'm quite proud about. I can't remember much about it except that it was a 4-3 thriller, which we scored the winner in the last couple of minutes. Mark Jones with a header from across at the Manchester end. That's what I can remember mostly about it, but there were great players playing around.
Billy Wright, Johnny Hancock and Mullen were in the Wolves side, by the way, that day.
Oh yes, I played against Broadbent. The players I played against always used to score, I don't know why. I used to blame it, I was covering other players when they were doing the scoring, you know.
Of course, Wolves were a great side themselves at that time, so it'd be a rival game, that particular one.
Yeah, no, yeah.
The memories of the Busby Babes, obviously, must come back and very close to you. I believe you got quite good memories of the Dortmund game.
It was my second European Cup game. I played against Shamrock, where they put a lot of reserves out at home, and we played Borussia Dortmund away, and we'd won 3-2 at Main Road at that time. We played the games at Main Road, some of the games. This particular game, this season, we played at Main Road, and what happened? We were winning, I think 3-0 or 3-1 or something, and they pulled back. A fellow who wore a hairnet played for them, and they had a bald-headed centre forward or inside forward called Priestler, I think, who played for the German national team. And over there, somebody was injured. I think Tommy Taylor didn't play, and they played Dunk. Or Dennis Fowler didn't play as well. They played Dunk anyway up front, and I came in his position. And it was a rock-hard ground, and we only had one goal to play with, and the away goals didn't count then, you know, unfortunately. Also, but we needed to get a draw, and we did, and it was like the Alamo defending. Bill Folks was playing well at the back, but the main, he was playing right back then. The main lad who saved us was Ray Wood. He had an absolute blinder, tremendous game. So. I can always remember that in this game, late on in the game, a cross came over from the right, their right, across to our right full-back position in the penalty area. Bill Folks, for some unaccountable reason, put his hand up and balled it, and the Dutch referee missed it. Everybody in the crowd saw it, but the Dutch, you know, it's sometimes that obvious, you miss the obvious. So what happened? He just played on, and we got through with a no-goal draw, which I was delighted with.
Who was? Well, regarding the time you was at United, can you perhaps tell me the best player you actually played with, and perhaps if it's not the same player, the one you've actually seen associated with United? I don't know if you're the same player. Actually, best player.
The best player. Well, the best player. There were a lot of great players. I remember watching Di Stefano, and we've seen Pele and Cruyff and all these. But the player who sticks in as all round, the power, the strength, the ability, was Duncan Edwards. And there's a story of Murphy tells, Jimmy Murphy, about we played at Bexley Heath, which was Charlton's nursery team, Youth Cup, and it was no goals. And we had Dave Pegg playing, Albert Scanlon, Dunk was playing centre half then, and the wing halves were Coleman on right half, and I was left, and Dunk in the middle. And Murphy tells a story, Charlton played. These Cockneys were getting onto him, well, where's this bleeding Edwards then, Murphy, you know, this sort of thing. And Dunk won the ball in a tackle on the edge of our penalty area. This was late in the second half, you see, and then I can't see bleeding Edwards, you know. Won it in the tackle, gave it to Coleman, who shimmied and gave it him back. He knocked it to me and I laid it into his path. He hit it out to Pegg, who laid it back to him after travelling about 5 yards. He'd gone about 10 yards inside their half, ran past two and hit this 30-yard rising drive into the back of the net. And Murphy turned around and said, "That's bleeding Edwards," he said, you see. And this sums Edwards up, because a lot of the players who played with him became internationals, and Charlton perhaps our best international, and yet Dunk was so much head and shoulders above him, above me, above Eddie. Good? Oh, he was. And we knew it. And we were proud. I mean, we felt there was many games I could talk about Edwards, especially at youth level, because that was the difference. We were little boys in comparison to him, and we became this is true, we played against, you look at the records, Chelsea in a two-leg semi-final. We won 2-1 down there and 2-1 up here, and he played centre-back and scored the 4 goals. You know, I mean, that is some player. And that was...
I remember one youth match sticks in my mind. He played for Plymouth 9 or something.
9, yeah.
I'm sure his penalty went through the net.
Yeah, well, he reminds me. Well,
was he also the best United player you've ever actually seen? Or would you...
Yeah. I mean, Bestie was a different type. Charlton, Bobby Charlton, different law. They were different. It was... well, not funny really. It is when you think what happened. We played Leeds United, and they were a struggling side really, but they had Big John Charles, and I forget the exact date now, but I was picked for some reason. Duncan was inside forward or was ill or something, and I was picked left half, and he was playing inside right, and the press afterwards said, "Oh, what a great game Little McGuinness had against the giant John, you know, the gentle giant," which he was, because I tackled for, you know, I saw that ball and I went in, and I was still learning, and I was a bit late in a few of them, and I must have wrapped his ankles about 6 times, and he kept falling down actually, and picking himself up and patting me on the head, you know. So I thought, what a great fella this. But it wasn't that. There's so much that I had this blinder against him, yet he scored 2 goals, and we won 3-2, and he scored the 2 goals. One was a penalty that will stand in my mind. It was like a Duncan Edwards type penalty. He ran up and he hit the stanchion and finished up bouncing behind him. That was at the Stretford end, and he'd scored another 30-yarder against Ray Wood in the Manchester end. You know, I can remember his goals now that he scored against us, and I was supposed to have a blinder stopping. It's a good job I did have a blinder, I think, if you can score goals like this. But this was the fella that had such an impression. And Big Dunk later became that sort of stature.
Edwards played in that game, so it would be a real
comparison.
I think
he
moved up to number 10.
Did Edwards? Yeah, I'm not sure. It's worth checking on that one, Roy, because but I was supposed to have a blind, and he scored 2 goals. So yeah, but he is a good. he was a great player, the greatest one I've played against. You know, I played against Didi in Real Madrid.
Di Stefano, I think, when they came over, they did a 6-1.
Yeah, that's right. I played, but that was, I mean, we got opened up because we had Ronnie Cope at the back, and I forget who, and we were sort of, we didn't have the right sort of cover against this continental style system, you know, yeah, and they tore us apart. But still, we went there a year later and lost 7-6 at Bernabeu. I played in that game, and we were robbed there, by the way. But it shows you we'd learn how to score, but not how to stop.
It's easy to talk afterwards, but of course, both the tragedy injury in 1959. You probably would have gone on to have even more international caps than the 2 you got. You then were given the onerous task of taking over from Samat in 1969 as manager. What were your thoughts on taking over from him? And perhaps what were the problems now, looking back?
Yeah, well, I must be brief about this because we all have feelings what could have done, but, you know, and but briefly, I felt overwhelmed at it, the chance, and it was one of those, I was never asked, do you want it? I was told, you are going to be my son, and I thought, no, you know, it was really giving me a crown, if you like, and I felt that way. I was 31 at the time, which, looking back, that could have been, well, was against me. Not that the lads didn't do it, I mean, they trained like the clappers, and unfortunately, I felt at the time, Bobby was sort of, we'd seen the best of Bobby, and we've seen the best of Dennis and Pat, and Nobby had an injury, and Dennis had an injury at the time. And what, looking back, was needed, I mean, I felt at the time it was needed, and I made a talk with Matt Busby about getting new players. And looking back, we should have got new players. And the people available were Colin Todd, who lasted and still playing, Mick Mills, who's still playing, Matt Donald, who did great. These are players United could have had, and looking back, we should have had. And not to replace the Charltons, Laws and Best, but to boost them up, to give them another 2 or 3 years, yeah. Well, in fairness, I wanted Matt Donald as a reserve when he was at Luton, because I thought, well, we can, to play in our reserves and then push, but it didn't happen. But looking back, those are the things. Other than that, whether I got the right help or all that, no, those are just people talking. It was great, very disappointed the way it ended. You know, I felt very hurt and I felt let down, but not by the players, because I thought they might have been moaning when they dropped. Of course they moan when they, you know, this sort of thing. It wasn't that. I thought they gave what they could. We could have done a little bit better and maybe splashed a bit of money.
Do you think lifting a trophy would have made the difference or not?
Well, no, I think Matt Busby retiring a few years later and me taking it a few years later would have helped as well. Looking back, I think that might have been the biggest obstacle, being the same age as the lads, or younger than some. That may have been because psychologically might have thought, well, he's only young, and when things go wrong, it's easy to look and say, well, it's him, because you know, if things had gone wrong, if I look like I look now, you know, a mature sort of looking fella, it could have happened.
Do you have a match as when you were the manager that sticks out in your mind?
Well, they were, yeah, they hurt a bit in the semi-final because we didn't win them. But no, I would think the games, seeing George Best play some of his best football consistently, which he did. I mean, the Chelsea went in the League Cup. That was the goal when Johnny Aston went on a run, pushed it to Best, who picked it up just inside the Chelsea half, going towards the Stretford end, and he went through zigzagging. Harris tried to bring him down. He missed. Then the centre half came. Who was the centre half? No. Hinton, I think it was Hinton. He came and he went by him, sent him 3 ways. Then Benetti's there, and we say, put it in, George, and he didn't. He stopped, you know, and dropped his shoulder and sent Benetti the wrong way, sent him the wrong way again, then stuck it in, and was kneeling before the Stretford end for the applause that he deserved. That was sort of the thing that stuck in my mind of the game. That was at Chelsea. I think it was the 4th round of the League Cup.
How did you handle that? Did you
No. The one problem, he didn't turn up a time or two, but he didn't do that when Matt Busby was, he did that for other people. It was and his reasons, he was open with his reasons. He was very honest to us, to our face, but then he'd talk to you and then perhaps do the opposite. You could never argue with him. But I didn't feel let down by George any more than anybody else. I thought he most probably did more for me on the playing side than he did for. He had a great time. I mean, I can remember a lot of highlights of where but we were losing 2-1 at Sheffield Wednesday, and he came and scored 2 in the last 10 minutes to win 3-2 in the game. This sort of thing.
What are your thoughts
just
on
unfortunate.
United since then? Players today?
I think they've done the right thing now.